What's the matter?
I want to.
You don't want to kiss him? Oh, what happened? What if you touch his hand?
No.
No touching either? No, well, sir, if she says no, no means no.
Bill Cosby was the guy that you saw on Ed Sullivan that prompted you to go into comedy. Do you feel any obligation that he obviously has felt for his whole career of being a good representative of the black race to all of America? Is that something that you think about?
No, that's
over.
Well, I don't know if it's over. I think that was Bill Cosby's way of dealing with. I think you can go on. I've seen a lot of comedians go on stage and say one thing and do another. I mean, I call that a lie.
Meaning?
I mean, I've seen a lot of comedians go out and say you can't do this and you don't do drugs and you got to treat your women like this, that, and other, and they go out and do contrary to what they say. To me, from my perspective, that's a lie.
This is Bill Cosby. Now that everybody has told you about the dangers of doing drugs, I'd like to tell you about some of the benefits. Just imagine yourself unconscious.
Hollywood is a town in transition, but its change is toward the conservative, the metropolitan. Hollywood promises to become part of another super city, like a lot of super cities in America.
In the heyday of the studio system during Hollywood's golden age, there were the Big Five: MGM, Warner Brothers, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, and RKO. Then there were the Little Three: Universal, United Artists, and Columbia. While the name suggests otherwise, Columbia Pictures had no affiliation with Columbia Records or their radio division, Columbia Broadcasting System, which also started up in the 20s.
How do you expect to get to New York at the rate you're going?
Brothers Harry and Jack Cohn had been slumming on this side of Poverty Row before hitting their stride with releases from Frank Capra, Cary Grant, and the Three Stooges. When Harry Cohn passed away in 1958, the Hollywood studio system had effectively died with him. In his wake, Columbia became overrun with rudderless corporate restructuring and bureaucracy, and with an ever-increasing number of hands in the pot, mismanagement was all but inevitable. Columbia still managed to put out some successful titles, but for the most part missed out on the blockbuster wave of the late 70s. They had already been looking for a potential buyer for the studio, and in January 1982, news came out that Coca-Cola was purchasing Columbia Pictures. An overeager Roberto Goizueta saw stars in his eyes at the prospect of owning a Hollywood movie studio and made them an offer they couldn't refuse: $752 million, nearly double their asking price of around $450 million. Reckless, perhaps, but as Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev faced off on the world stage in the arms race, Goizueta was determined to humiliate Fidel Castro with a grand display of the power of capitalism. With the overhaul of Columbia Pictures came a modernization of their business practices.
Here's the difference between the two ways of dealing with a nation's economy.
One of the cornerstones of Reaganomics had been to memory hole the country into collective amnesia over the 1929 stock market collapse, as the guardrails were knocked over to make way for a resurgence of public trading.
The lamb that Wall Street has shorn. When I was a little girl, a patron of art left me $1 million for my musical education. But I thought I couldn't live on the income from $1 million. So I asked all my rich friends for tips on the market. They gave them to me, and I lost my $1 million. Now the only thing I have left is this chinchilla coat of mine, which I paid $25,000 for. And are there any bears in the house? If there are, I wish you'd buy my coat. From now on, my hands are off the ticker and on the piano keys. And my advice to you is that if you're lucky enough to have $1 million, hold everything. And above all, don't play the stock market.
Basically what we do is we buy and sell currencies against the dollar. We do it both for our own account and for the account of our customers. The key feature here is speed, trying to follow what's going on in the international market. The rates move more quickly than anybody can follow. It's not a question of minutes or even hours, it's second to second.
It could be there 1 minute, he said change next minute. You have to get the change in right away. So if you don't, and they get you, then you lose the money.
Coca-Cola brought their marketing panache to Wall Street with a new approach to funding pictures. Instead of footing the bill for productions through traditional banking and private funding sources, Columbia Pictures were now making it so that anyone could own a piece of the movies themselves. At least that was the impression they wanted to give off. Delphi Film Partnerships were a string of IPOs, or initial public offerings, that offered shares in film production, similar to shares in a corporation. Individual units could be purchased for $5,000 apiece on the open market, and each IPO was made up of 12,000 units. Each $60 million pool would then go towards funding a handful of productions, and in turn receive a share of the profits from those films. With the advent of cable television and home video, movies could now earn extra revenue from the secondary market as well. When these Delphi IPOs were first announced, they benefited from misleading copy in several articles declaring investors in the first round of funding would have stakes in Columbia's 1982 hits Tootsie, Annie, and The Toy. The fine print in the ads suggests that who will own what percentage of what production may not be so cut and dry, surely by design. Out of the titles co-produced by Delphi 1, by far the biggest windfall came from Ghostbusters, which made $296 million on a $30 million budget in 1984. Delphi 2 was pitched as Walter Matthau, Burt Reynolds, and Julie Andrews in your portfolio. The promised Matthau vehicle, The Survivors with Robin Williams, was co-produced with Columbia's longtime partner Rastar, who'd also made Annie and The Toy. Burt and Julie appeared in the Delphi-backed The Man Who Loved Women, one of a string of flaccid, forgettable romps from Blake Edwards. Regrettably, Edwards had never recovered from the death of his muse, Peter Sellers, in 1980.
British actor and comedian Peter Sellers died early Thursday morning London time after a massive heart attack Tuesday.
I think had he not been Peter Sellers, he very likely could have ended up in an institution.
And the 6 Delphi-attached pictures he made were embarrassing flops for the veteran director. Delphi 2's biggest performer, 1984's Karate Kid, banked $131 million on an $8 million budget, which offset several costly bombs.
Possibly one of the biggest stars this country has today.
Just been fooling myself!
The biggest of which was Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
Sheena. She alone has the power to save paradise.
Columbia had hopes Sheena would launch a new superhero franchise.
Stop using words you know I do not understand.
Former Charlie's Angel Tanya Roberts was chosen from over 2,000 actresses to play Sheena, the heroine whose beauty is matched by her courage and bravery.
Well, she's great looking.
Sheena has grown up in the jungle. She has a sort of a telepathy with the animals, which she's learned from the shaman who is her mother, like the Mother Earth, the African woman who brought her up.
Embrace me, doll. My heart goes with you, shaman, and my fear.
But when it lost $20 million the same summer as Karate Kid, Tanya Roberts was forced to settle for Bond Girl instead.
There's never a cab when you want one.
Delphi was already taking advantage of a number of loopholes in the new tax code to market their products as tax shelters. But brokers seemed to sell Delphi 3 and 4 as an outright tax dodge. One broker in Odessa, Stanton Bussell, commented,
"There's a 70% tax write-off the first year. If you're in a 50% bracket, you save $3,500 a unit."
An executive at Merrill Lynch's New York headquarters, Peter Galliard, expressly stated that Delphi 4 units
should generate a first-year tax loss of 70% in the original investment.
Discussing the returns coming in from Delphi 1, Galliard ran through some rosy projections and forecasts before confirming only that investors
should get their money back.
Beyond that,
I have no idea.
A glance at Delphi 3's portfolio leaves one to wonder if this fund wasn't set up to lose money vis-a-vis the producers.
It's so simple. Step 1, we find the worst play in the world, a surefire flop.
Springtime for Hitler.
Step 2, I raise $1 million. There are a lot of little old ladies in the world.
I love you.
Step 3, you go back to work on the books.
While The Legend of Billie Jean and Real Genius would enjoy second lives on home video, moviegoers weren't exactly lining up around the block to see Tom Selleck chase police robots. Or the hotly anticipated finale of the Private School trilogy.
Private Resort, the third in the private school private lesson saga.
Delphi 4 performed considerably better with St. Elmo's Fire, White Nights, and Murphy's Romance. But any profit sharing from Delphi 5's hits About Last Night, Peggy Sue Got Married, or The Karate Kid Part 2 were eaten up by massive losses from A Fine Mess,
the movie that takes comedy seriously,
Stewardess School, and one of the all-time epic fails in motion picture history, Ishtar.
Ishtar, written and directed by Elaine May.
This is some of our best work.
As Merrill Lynch and Pitney Bowes began holding seminars across the country to attract investors, analysts warned consumers to be leery of the hype. Charles Hovey of Tucker Anthony remarked,
"We've looked at a bunch of these and passed on all, for one primary reason. The definition of net is a very difficult thing to get a handle on. Theater owners, distributors, the production company, actors, everyone gets a percentage of the gross, and after it's all done, there's not a lot left over."
One Hollywood executive told the AP,
"Only 1 film in 10 makes money, 2 break even, and 7 lose, so your odds are better investing in an oil well."
Furman Nettles of Robert A. Sanger and Company remarked,
"You're investing in the fickleness of the public and the competence of producers."
Insiders in the industry began using the phrase dumb money as slang for overrepresentation of deep-pocketed dentists, oil tycoons, and other wealthy individuals eager for a piece of the glamorous but high-risk game of film production. One seminar in Tampa featured a screening of The Big Chill, and press in advance included more deceptively worded copy. Movies that fall into the investment plan's portfolio include such hits as Tootsie, Stir Crazy, Kramer vs. Kramer, The Natural, and now The Big Chill. The Payne Weber broker holding the event, Richard Watts, stated,
"We're trying to provide local investors with an idea of what investing in the movie industry can bring them in return. Furthermore, it's a sexy subject that really turns on the investors."
Merrill Lynch is there with the help you need to make the most of them. Because at Merrill Lynch, we believe your world should know no boundaries.
There's an old joke on Wall Street about Merrill Lynch that's said to go back to the Roaring '20s. A broker is wining and dining a prospective client, and after dinner they head to the Merrill Lynch building so the broker can show off the ornate entryway and the gilded offices. Hoping to really wow his prospect, the broker takes him down to the pier, points to a fancy 30-foot motor yacht at the dock and says, "See that boat? That's my boat." The prospect says, "It's a fine boat. Must be doing pretty well for yourself." The broker nods and points to a 65-foot pocket cruiser and says, "You see that one? Nice, huh?" Prospect agrees, and the broker adds, "That one belongs to my boss. How about that, huh?" Pointing now to a 98-foot luxury yacht further down the pier, he continues, "And that one over there belongs to the CEO. What do you think?" Prospect asks the broker, "So which boats do your clients own?" And that's the joke. 64-year-old Robert Clayton Sewell Jr. attended one of Merrill Lynch's Delphi seminars after selling his farm in Pennsylvania for $806,000. 32-year-old Nora Barnes was working this seminar and managed to ingratiate herself to Sewell, becoming his financial consultant. According to court filings, Sewell had suffered from alcohol dependence since his wife's passing in 1975. He later alleged that Barnes knowingly exploited his impairment to sell him $450,000 in shares in Delphi 4, along with ML Delphi, under false pretenses. He denied ever signing the requisite customer agreement documents, and upon subpoena, Merrill Lynch was unable to produce the records. In her testimony, Barnes admitted to Sewell sounding slurred and disoriented when the two talked on the phone. Sewell then alleged that Barnes placed his account on margin where a number of unauthorized loans were written without his knowledge, using his shares as collateral. These loans were then allegedly used to generate trading activity for the purpose of artificially generating commissions. Sewell also testified to receiving fraudulent account statements. His appeal to the arbitration process was ongoing when Robert Clayton Sewell Sr. passed away on July 18, 1998, in Riviera Beach, Florida.
Come hell or high water, we've got what America wants, and we're going to get it to them.
And it's basically dog-eat-dog situation. You got to be better than the other guy or you don't make it. Because they'll steal your business as fast as they possibly can.
Nobody wants to even look at a product that's dirty. It's not tastable. If you've got a nice, clean product, they'll buy it. Coca-Cola is a good product, but you've got to keep it clean to sell it.
Cleaning coolers is a big job, but they do sell the product for you. Looks a lot better now. That's the way I like to leave the stores. Full, clean, and neat.
In addition to merging with a media conglomerate, Coca-Cola gave their slogan and product line a makeover. The languid "have a Coke and a smile" and the mildly desperate "Coke is the real thing" were swapped out for the bolder, more assertive "Coke is it." Up next was their diet soda offerings. In 1963, Royal Crown put out the first sugar-free cola, Diet Right. When sales quickly took off, Coca-Cola responded. In the interest of preserving the prestige of their flagship brand, they had avoided using the Coca-Cola name on any beverage products but the original. To come up with the right name, they used an IBM 1404 to generate a list of 185,000 four-letter words with one vowel. Eventually, the name Tab was chosen by committee. Meanwhile, Diet Pepsi came out in 1964 and quickly became a strong asset in Pepsi's portfolio. Enough so that by 1982, Coca-Cola was ready to reconsider their stance.
You know what's new? Diet Coke!
Diet Coke was basically Tab, which had taken a hit in the 70s after studies began to link its sweetener, saccharin, to bladder cancer in test animals. A new artificial sweetener, aspartame, was gradually phased into Diet Coke, and Tab continued to be sold as a niche product. But a new diet soda with the Coca-Cola moniker proved to be a hit with consumers. As Coca-Cola scrambled to catch up to the times, Pepsi's next offensive was more than a campaign slogan. Pepsi laid claim to Generation X, a move which left Coke's staid stance on being it looking all the more arcane by contrast.
What's that? We did it!
Hey, where's my Pepsi?
Oh no. He took it. This could be catastrophic. It could change history.
Relax, Smith. You don't really think that one can of Pepsi could alter 100 years of history, do you?
Nah, I guess not.
After all, what could 12 little ounces of Pepsi do?
Yeah, you're probably right. What could happen?
What could happen?
Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
As Pepsi rolled out ad spots featuring Lionel Richie and Michael J. Fox, Bill Cosby's insipid preening failed to have the same impact on the kids. Then Pepsi drafted the hottest pop artist in the world.
Michael Jackson is back in action with his new album, Thriller.
Thriller was nothing short of a seismic cultural shift when it came out in 1982. Michael Jackson's sixth solo album held the #1 spot on Billboard for a record 37 weeks, from February 26, 1983 to April 14, 1984. All 7 of the singles off Thriller were top 10 hits, another unprecedented achievement, and his groundbreaking music videos opened the door for black artists and music to get airplay on MTV for the first time. Yet for the fans, there would be no Thriller tour.
From Michael Jackson. Off the Wall features 5 hit singles.
Michael's last album, Off the Wall, had sold well, but his loyalty to family meant his current radio hits would instead be used to beef up the set list of the Jacksons' Destiny tour.
The Jacksons, when they hit the stage, it rocks.
Wait a minute, Jermaine, wait a minute. You never come to rehearsal. You're always flying around in Fiji and everywhere around the world. And then you think you can come back and just put your songs anywhere in the show. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, you can't do your songs.
Fellas, I don't care about that. I want to do my songs right now.
Wait a minute.
Thanks in no small part to Jermaine's incessant desire to raise his own profile, Michael was once again coerced into foregoing a solo tour in support of Thriller for another family affair.
I can't really say much today, but I would like to introduce some of the family here.
Michael was especially uneasy after learning that the Victory Tour would be sponsored by Pepsi, an executive decision made by promoter Don King. Recognizing his influence in popular culture, Michael didn't feel it was appropriate for a children's role model to promote soda. His concerns were drowned out, though, and an ad campaign for Pepsi in conjunction with the Victory Tour was coordinated. The jingle used the original backing track from Billie Jean with new Pepsi-fied lyrics sung by Michael. In Bob Giraldi's first TV spot, a decked-out, aspiring mini MJ is practicing his moves out in the street when the king of pop himself suddenly emerges, offering affirmation and encouragement through dance, while, in no uncertain terms, enlisting the boy into the Pepsi generation. You're a whole new generation. You're a whole new generation. The Jackson's second Pepsi commercial was far more basic in concept, a mock-up of a concert from the upcoming Victory Tour shot at the Shrine Auditorium in L.A. However, a pyrotechnical mishap resulted in Michael's hair catching fire, and the second and third degree burns he suffered are considered by many to be the catalyst for the domino effect of health complications and elective procedures that would lead to his untimely death in 2009. Thankfully for Pepsi, Giraldi was able to salvage a suitable 30 seconds from the spot, and both the Victory Tour and the Pepsi Generation campaign proceeded according to plan. You're a whole generation. Who you gonna call? Pepsi now had Coca-Cola on their heels. Dizzied and disoriented, Coca-Cola started to reconsider their long-standing policy on maintaining the integrity of their original syrup formula. After becoming chairman, Roberto Goizueta ensured that his successor as president wouldn't be an impediment to progress as he saw it. At 64, Donald Keogh had been a Coca-Cola employee nearly half his life. He was boisterous, at times gregarious, but his lighthearted nature masked a conflict avoidance instinct that left him impressionable. He was also business savvy enough to see the writing on the wall as Pepsi's market share continued to gain.
Let's shoot a sacred cow every day. Everything's up for grabs, including the formulations of the company. Well, that was lifting a veil off of this company that just had been there for decades.
We had tried everything. The only thing we did not try was changing the taste.
Kansas is a code word for a secret project known only to a very few people. Let me tell you how it got started. 5 years ago, all Coke bottlers got together, and we said to each other, let's really turn the heat on. I mean, it's okay to be number one, but what you really want to be is out in front and pulling away. What happened?
In secret, behind the locked doors of Coca-Cola's laboratories, a search began for a new Coke that would beat the taste of Pepsi. New formulas were created, tested against Pepsi, and rejected when they didn't come out on top. Finally, in late 1984, the chemists came across a new taste that they thought was a winner.
From that began a series of testing. It looked better and better. Hundreds of tests, better. Thousands of tests, better.
After thousands upon thousands of rounds of in-house testing and tweaking, the engineers behind the top-secret Operation Kansas developed, with surgical precision, the ultimate cola drink, a beverage that scientifically outperformed all competing brands.
As a final rite of passage, Schechter was asked to take the ultimate taste test.
I basically could not tell the difference between old Coke, new Coke, and Pepsi.
In truth, what they did was take their popular selling Diet Coke, which itself was just a repackaging of Tab, and change out the saccharin aspartame blend for high fructose corn syrup. In other words, new Coke was full sugar Tab.
In the process of developing Diet Coke, our flavor chemists came up with a flavoring compound that they felt was exceptional, and that in blind taste test, and I emphasize the word blind, was preferred.
When we got started working on the formula for Diet Coke, we told the flavor chemists, don't come back until you've got the best. Well, they really did it right. But they got to thinking, what happens if we use some of these new flavor complexes that we've discovered in Diet Coke and put them in Coca-Cola? Well, they did that, and they came up with a new formula that was codenamed Kansas. And in that sense, you know, it's too bad that Mr. Woodruff, the patron of Coca-Cola, who recently passed away, that he isn't here to enjoy this moment.
90% of Coca-Cola's own employees have never seen the boss. In his 90 years, he has never granted an interview to a newsman. People say they don't make things like they used to. Well, they don't make people like Robert W. Woodruff anymore either.
Robert Winship Woodruff was Coca-Cola's original Nepo baby. His father, Ernest, had bought out the Coca-Cola company from founder Asa Griggs Candler in 1919 and reportedly installed Robert as president in 1926 as a means to quell some family drama. Under Woodruff's leadership, the company expanded globally, and he remained on the board of directors until 1984, when he stepped down due to health reasons.
He was involved in this project from the very start.
Goizueta claimed Woodruff gave New Coke his approval after sampling the new formula. Sources close to Woodruff allege he was misled as to what was being proposed and was unaware of Goizueta's intentions. At any rate, a few days after trying New Coke, Robert Winship Woodruff died.
Conscientiously improved. Kansas. Let's do it.
A month later, on April 23, 1985, Roberto Goizueta and Donald Keogh unveiled New Coke.
The Coca-Cola Company pulled out all the stops in making its announcement. The normally staid and cultural environment of New York's Lincoln Center was turned into a taste fest for the New Coke.
A great new taste, now it's opening night. A colossal event, it is reaching.
When we finally announced it, we got a standing ovation, and we thought victory was at hand.
It's a hit, it's a Coke. Coke is it.
I'm going to get right to the point. The best soft drink, Coca-Cola, is now going to be even better. Simply stated, we have a new formula for Coke, a new taste for Coke, destined to refresh tomorrow's world.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Well, we simply believe that this is the biggest news about Coca-Cola and the best news about Coca-Cola that we've ever announced or ever will announce. Consumers preferred the new taste over the original by a margin of 61 to 39, statistically valid to a factor of over 99%. So, as Roberto indicated, the decision was made by the consumers themselves. Consumers have selected a new taste for Coke as we enter our centennial year. Coca-Cola with that new taste is going to roll all around the world.
I would say is smoother, rounder, yet bolder, is a more harmonious flavor.
You're a pretty good copywriter, Roberto.
I mean, are you 100% certain that this won't bomb, this new formula?
As I said, I think this is the surest move ever, because the consumer made it. We didn't.
And we think there's going to be enormous trial as we roll out this product, and we've got such confidence in the product, we know we've got a winner.
To what extent are you introducing this product to meet the Pepsi challenge?
Oh, gosh, no. I mean, that's Pepsi challenge. When did that happen? That's okay for number 2, always.
Are you saying that the Pepsi Cola has no more to do with this than Heinz baked beans or Hershey's Kisses?
Well, I don't know. You can handle the English better than I can, so I'm not going to get into that argument with you, but I would say that the consumer had everything to do with this.
But the initial response from the public quickly wiped the shit-eating grins off their faces.
Most Coke drinkers look for the crisp and refreshing taste of Coke. If we want a Pepsi, we'd buy Pepsi.
Well, there, honey, ma'am, I can tell you that what you're going to get when you try this new product is Coca-Cola even better.
It's not even close to Pepsi.
It's not close to anything you've ever had.
Not at all. Not at all.
Except a Coke.
Not at all.
There wasn't much electricity in the air.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to invite you to the lobby to try the new taste of Coca-Cola.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where's my first customer here? You got it. Okay.
Who else needs a Coke?
Enjoy it. Hello, young man. You ready for a Coke? Have a Coke. I love this work.
Well, the real thing is in for a real change these days. Coca-Cola is altering its 99-year-old secret recipe. But if things have been going better with Coke all along, why tamper with success?
From the orderliness and elegance of Coca-Cola's news conference was this grassroots rally, if you will, of its chief opponent. The Pepsi people say they organized this demonstration to celebrate Coke's changes. Free Pepsi was the order of the day, just a few blocks away from the Coca-Cola announcement.
I think Coke's announcement today is a concession, a victory to us. I think most people know that when something is right, you don't change it. We're not changing it, they are.
And so happy is Pepsi over the Coke change, the company's giving its employees the day off this Friday. And I don't think, Brad, we've heard the end of this.
I guess not. Yeah, you tasted it. What did it taste like to you? Any different?
I'm not really a cola drinker. One thing I can tell the difference between is Coke and Pepsi. Coke is closer to Pepsi right now. It is sweeter, just like Pepsi.
You're going to try to out-Pepsi Pepsi, huh?
Looks like it.
The new Coke backlash has gone on to become a case study in mass psychology and the phenomenon of expectation bias.
I can't tell the difference between the new taste of Coke and the old taste of Pepsi.
Why are you upset about it?
Because I'm 46 years old and I bought my first Coke with a nickel when I was 5 years old. I helped build this multinational corporation. My oldest daughter is 22. Her first word was Coke. Her second word was Mommy.
A 57-year-old Seattleite named Gary Mullins spent $30,000 on a protest campaign he called Old Cola Drinkers of America that included a hotline. 35-year-old Libby Levine
Her name was Libby Levine.
35-year-old Libby
Levine
of Huntington Woods, Michigan, came to be dubbed in the media as the Coca-Cola groupie after making national news for going to absurd lengths to track down remaining backstock of old Coke.
If I heard that 30 miles away a store had some old Coke, I'd be right there buying it.
Please don't change the taste of Coke. Why do you want to fix it? It ain't broke.
You didn't like the new formula?
I've never tried it, but I didn't want to. Did I? Oh, I did. That's right, and I threw it out the window of the car.
Because we don't like it.
Because we don't like it.
Fidel Castro took the opportunity to take a shot at the failure of New Coke, calling it a sign of American capitalist decadence. A humiliated Roberto Goizueta tried to save face by spinning the fiasco as an opportunity.
A gentleman in Wisconsin who wrote a letter, kind of protesting about the formula change. And then he said, I would appreciate it very much if you signed this letter at the bottom and return it to me, because in years to come, the signature of the dumbest executive in American history is going to be worth a fortune. So I did sign at the bottom and send it to him. So it was humbling in that sense, and it was exhilarating in the sense that we realized we had something in our hands, a treasure that we had never valued as it should have been valued.
But his refusal to take ownership of his mistakes would draw criticism from his predecessor and ultimately diminish his legacy.
I think it's best for us to go back the full 11 weeks to when on April the 23rd we made the announcement about New Coke. What's happened in those 11 weeks? Well, I think most of you know that it has been looked upon as the most incredible marketing news in history. In that 11-week period, we have learned some things. We have learned that there were thousands of consumers that, even though they may have liked the idea and the taste of new Coca-Cola, no, we want to have that product available. We want to have that choice. And not having that can cause us some negative reactions. You need to establish a clear difference so that consumers will not confuse Coca-Cola Classic made from the original formula with Coca-Cola, which was the product that we began introducing on April 23rd. Why do you think that other people are saying what we think we know? Well, the major reason is that you have this product, Coca-Cola, which is the best tasting product we know how to make, with the strength of the Coke trademark and with all the heritage through the years. This is truly our premier brand. But in addition to that, we are also now offering Coca-Cola Classic for those who want the original taste.
Within 3 months, Coca-Cola would revert back to what was said to be the original formula, though in reality, Coca-Cola Classic was now sweetened with the cheaper high-fructose corn syrup.
Coca-Cola Classic, red, white, and
that announcement in no way changes our total commitment to this product. The best tasting product that we have ever made, the one that is going to carry us for at least the next 99 years, and which is going to receive our primary attention and efforts.
Looking to integrate their movie studio further into the Coca-Cola fold, Donald Keogh stepped in as chairman of Columbia Pictures. Due to escalating conflict in the Middle East, Coca-Cola had several $1 million tied up in Morocco that they were unable to repatriate. Keogh's solution was to use up the funds by filming on location there. Despite the forced optimism around the Columbia lot over the script, Keogh saw their latest effort in development as a vanity project for Warren Beatty, as a favor to friend and comedian Elaine May to direct. Ishtar was greenlit mainly to get in Beatty's good graces. The studio played to May's pretentiousness, convincing her that shooting in Morocco would give her adventure comedy realism.
My inspiration to do Ishtar was that those movies with Hope and Crosby never had any American politics in, even though we owned all these little islands that they went to. And I knew that America was going into the Middle East. I mean, a few people knew it. The CIA was all over, and that they'd never get out of it. And so I thought of Ishtar.
From Columbia's perspective, burning monies on a flop was worth more to them come tax season than leaving it sitting overseas. Plus, Delphi 5 still had some cash left in the kitty. But Elaine May was able to blow through all of it and then some, blowing through celluloid by the boatload with grotesquely indulgent reshoots tallying up to the hundreds as she tied up production for weeks on end until a patch of desert sand was leveled to her satisfaction. The failure of Ishtar was so uniquely epic that the title has become a shorthand for films that go wildly over budget, only to bomb spectacularly at the box office. Ishtar lost $35.6 million, roughly equivalent to $100 million in 2024, and Elaine May was blacklisted by the film industry.
You know, it was an oddly easy movie to make.
In spite of their best efforts to divert lesser projects to TriStar and hedge their bets with Delphi program, Columbia Pictures' Renaissance era was shaping up to be more of a false start. They needed a hit, and they needed it bad.
Hi, Phil Foreman here for Coke. Everyone's into something, and I'm into fours. I got 4 kids, 4 goldfish, 4 watches. And now Coca-Cola's done something for me. Coke in the new 4-liter bottle. They call it Super Thirst Buster.
Coca-Cola, meanwhile, were on the ropes. Pepsi had faked them out, and now they were scrambling to rebuild their brand identity. They celebrated their 100-year anniversary with a back-to-basics revamp that laid the nostalgia on thick in hopes of papering over the new Coke ordeal. Coca-Cola lost the public face of their company for the last 6 years. As they floundered, Bill Cosby was flourishing with a massive resurgence in his career.
It's not a dessert. It's not a soft drink. And it's not a computer. It's the all-new, all-star comedy spectacular.
A 1981 stand-up performance at Hamilton Place in Hamilton, Ontario, was filmed and released 2 years later. Bill Cosby himself was a success as a concert film, home video, and an album. And Cos was soon approached with a chance to return to TV.
We were panicked about O'Madeline going off the air. So we were trying to come up with something quickly.
Producers Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner had left ABC after manning several hit comedies for the network, including Mork and Mindy, Three's Company, and Welcome Back, Kotter. To break out on their own as independents, Carsey and Werner agreed they needed a big name for their first endeavor.
O'Madeline going off the air.
And the family-focused clean comedy and themes of Cosby's latest material gave them inspiration. The Cosby Show was a watershed moment in American entertainment when it premiered September 20th, 1984. The first sitcom to feature a black family that wasn't defined in some way by socioeconomic disadvantage. With an attorney for a mom and an OBGYN for a dad, the Huxtables were financially stable and upwardly mobile. Black artists and cultural heritage were celebrated, but in an overtly non-threatening manner. The show steered clear of acknowledging racial tensions, creating a portrait of a post-racial society, which proved to be exactly the kind of escapism primetime network audiences were craving in the 80s. By the second season, The Cosby Show reached #1 in the ratings, and would hold that spot for the rest of the decade. The unparalleled success of The Cosby Show also made it the perfect bait for Bill Cosby, and his Manhattan brownstone would become his preferred playground as Cosby's serial predation took on a whole new dimension.
I will now predict the exact moment in time when every single one of you will enjoy the best tasting Coca-Cola ever. It will be the very moment that you pick up this can, because inside this can is the new taste of Coca-Cola. The best tasting Coca-Cola ever. You will taste the new taste immediately, and you will like it a lot.
As things continued to come up roses for Cosby, his association with the new Coke debacle was an embarrassment he didn't need, and he withdrew as their spokesperson. But Cosby enjoyed watching Coca-Cola flail, and delighted in slapping them around for sport as they begged him to reconsider. In short order, Bill Cosby had them on the hook by dangling the prospect of lending out his now meteoric star power to them once again. He made a proposition that promised to solve both Coca-Cola's and Columbia Pictures' problems. An action comedy spectacular he'd cooked up while watching Rambo: First Blood Part 2. Execs at Coca-Cola half-listened before checking out entirely as Cosby laid out a convoluted pitch. A retired CIA agent who is somehow implied to have starred in 5 prequels just brought out of retirement to take down a vegetarian eco-terrorist using uncooked hot dogs and melted butter while flying around on an ostrich.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
A very special human being is going to appear before you. He's a name that everybody in this world knows, Bill Cosby. And I'm sure you know that he's one of the very special human beings in the world. You can't define him as a star. He just has a love affair with the people of the world. Dear friend, Bill Cosby. Bill?
Thank you, Don. I'm going to be making a movie for Columbia Pictures. Columbia Pictures.
Columbia Pictures? What is it? It's another name for the Coca-Cola Company. It will release the picture in 45 countries around the world, in countries where Bill Cosby is a major figure. And that release will be a major motion picture, a comedy that stars Bill Cosby.
Columbia Pictures and Coca-Cola. Doesn't just say Columbia Pictures. It says, and Coca-Cola. That makes me smile. I like that. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola and Columbia Pictures and Coca-Cola.
Yes, without doubt, Bill Cosby is the biggest star in America today.
He's also arguably the biggest star in the entire world. That's just one of the reasons why we at Columbia Pictures were only too pleased to accept Bill's invitation to partner with him in the making of his comedy action adventure story, Leonard Part 6.
Columbia Pictures and Coca-Cola. All right. This movie will be a success because I'm going to work my buns off to make this movie one of the funniest movies people have ever seen. Columbia Pictures will say, yay, we did it.
To do what? To sell more Coca-Cola.
Yes, you are there. And that's why we're putting you there from Jump Street.
We worked very early on with our colleagues at the Coca-Cola Company to build premium items into the movie itself. And Bill's been wonderfully gracious in helping in all the areas of this promotion.
And we're family. We're family. Bill Cosby, Coca-Cola, Columbia Pictures.
We honestly believe that this motion picture offers even more volume-building potential for Coca-Cola than we enjoyed with that great breakaway hit called Ghostbusters.
I'm going to give 189,000% of myself in this movie. Sweat, an awful lot of thinking, an awful lot of my expertise and my knowledge.
Bill Cosby and the cast and crew have put together a great motion picture, and it's going to be fantastic.
We're going to make this a funny, funny movie, and one that, without a doubt, is funny and people want to stand in line, in snow, in rain, and will not wait to come see later on, or later on buy the cassettes for.
Watching the film come to life, I've seen a movie with polish, style, and real comic flair. Frankly, what's evolved is much, much more than any of us could have hoped for. There's a real universal appeal here, and with the world's favorite, most trusted funny man, we've got a movie that truly delivers.
Leonard 6, Columbia Pictures and Coca-Cola, worldwide.
Bill Cosby seems certain his
high-tech comic book character
couldn't lose, adding in an article for the St. Petersburg Times,
I've put stuff in here for the women, I've put stuff in here for the kids.
Columbia trusted that the man behind the #1 show on TV couldn't be wrong, and Cosby satiated Coca-Cola with all the product placement and tie-ins they could get away with.
Joey, we're going to Ponderosa.
Here I am, just like Bill Cosby in the new movie Leonard Part 6, on yet another secret mission. Arriving, I enter cautiously. Then I see it.
Now get a Leonard Part 6 mini spy camera at Ponderosa for only 99 cents with any purchase.
All right.
Hi, Leonard.
There's a family feeling at Ponderosa.
Now bring the action home with the new Action Max game video system. See how you can win one in a Leonard Part 6 Action Max sweepstakes display where you buy Coca-Cola Classic and Sprite. When you've got Leonard Part 6, Leonard! Action Max, Sprite, and Coca-Cola Classic, you can't beat the feeling.
Once upon a time, there was a man named Leonard Parker.
But instead of cashing in on the 1987 Christmas season, Leonard Part 6 wound up losing nearly $20 million at the box office.
You're going to have a wedding, and then maybe a week later, I'm going to have to pay for a funeral.
Bill Cosby distanced himself from the disaster he created, going so far as to hit the talk show circuit to actively advise audiences not to see it.
It wasn't a big hit, was it?
No, because they took it off about 2 days before it went out. These are called golden raspberry. When they say you win this, it goes in all the papers, and papers love to do that. They love to go on the worst thing and the worst and the worst. So they're going like, Bill Cosby, worst producer, worst writer, worst actor. I swept the award.
But Cosby couldn't quite bring himself to take any responsibility, instead placing the blame on director Paul Weiland, a first-timer who'd been hired expressly to be his yes man. Coca-Cola threw in the towel on the movie game, but landed on their feet after selling their studio to Sony Pictures for $3.4 billion in September 1989. Along the way, Columbia Pictures finally had a few blockbusters under their belt, and their experiment in public partnerships opened new avenues for production funding in the dawn of the age of private equity. while The Cosby Show and its spin-off A Different World continued to bring in material reward and widespread acclaim. In private, Bill Cosby remained livid at how Leonard Part 6 turned out. Through all his successes, the cinema was the one area of entertainment he'd yet to conquer, and nothing ate at Cosby more than being told no.
Threaten me? And I get the feeling that I've seen the last of you. Rio de Janeiro blues.
I was so afraid of, living in tents and having gorillas come in the middle of the night, or lions, or, no water, freezing cold showers. You have a bucket, that's it. No light, no electricity, just, I don't know what, candles. But we've been in great hotels.
Thanks for watching.